What a wonderful morning we have had already, and we are allowing God to flow. And that's what is so important for you, to allow the presence of God to flow through you. And learning to receive from Him is so important. And not how much you love Him, but how much He loves you. This morning, we have a wonderful presentation for you, but it is through the Word of God. And so we're going to leave the lights down, and when Jonathan comes, we're just going to turn the spotlights brighter on him, because he is a bright young man, and we're excited about him being here. But a little over a year ago, towards the end of last year, my wife brought to attention to me this project, or what is Jonathan has been doing, the Hope Movement, and I wasn't aware of it. And when she brought it to my attention, it gripped my heart, and especially when I started looking into it and finding out that down in Guatemala there is a building down there that was started by Miss Betty Wright, long time ago, and she has since gone on to glory. That is Chaplain Viance's sister, and she started this. And Jonathan went down there as a teenager and as missionaries, and they started this building where they started reaching out to the people there in Guatemala. And the building was started through the Edgemere Church of God, and it has a little name plaque down there. And when I found out that the building had fallen into such disrepair and it needed dire attention, boy, I just want to be honest with the church, I was embarrassed. That the name of Edgemere Church of God, that we should let something like that go. And so I knew immediately that we wanted to do something, and I didn't know exactly what we were going to do, because usually we just do a mission project a year, and this year we haven't done a mission project. And so as I started pondering it and then was in communication with Jonathan, I realized that this is where we're going to set up camp, and this is where we're going to start putting down roots. And so our mission projects from here on out is going to be focused on bringing this up to speed and expanding and reaching these people and working through this organization and taking, that's where our mission trips are going to be. We're going to just constantly, year after year, I'd love to do 2 trips a year. We're just going to go down there and just keep building and building and facilitating, and we're going to need your help in regards to that. So you're going to hear all about that, and you're going to see this young man who I just remember him in youth group, and he was just a funky kid, but I really, really liked him, and I'm just amazed at what has happened. It's so refreshing to see a young man who God has gripped his heart, and he hasn't walked away, and here he is as an adult, and he is just doing a wonderful work for God. And I've talked enough. Can you welcome Jonathan Roiz? First of all, I'm so sorry, but Jonathan's mom is here, and her husband. Can you give them a nice hand too?
Thank you very much. Before we start, I just want to thank Pastor Hancock, Sister Hancock. I think it's been 18 years since I stood up here. And the last time I stood up here, I sang a song that I wrote that was called Misunderstood. And it had long lines that said, young boy alone and afraid, just wants to feel some love today. Basically, it was looking for purpose. And 18 years later, here I am with purpose. So, and thanks to your leadership and this church that I find memories of, all the times we did the VBSs and the little dramas and the spring bazaars and fall bazaars and all those fun things, and even to the point where I used to spend so much time here that I think my parents somehow forgot that I was in the church one Sunday afternoon. And I think they might have thought I went with a youth group or something. I'm not sure what happened. And I got locked into the church one afternoon. And so I just hung out, and I was playing the piano, playing the drums, and just hung out until someone remembered that I was here, and they opened the door for me. So I have a lot of history here, and it's good to see everybody. And today I just wanted to share just a lot of times churches, we come to church and we look for what can God do for us and heal our hurts and pains. And this is a different message. This is about the hurts and pains of Jesus and what we can do for him. And so it's going to be a journey. And the last 10 years of doing this as a nonprofit ministry, it's been a long journey. It's been a hard journey. Many times you feel like you just can't go on. I'm sure Pastor Hancock and Jude and Susie and everyone can relate. And I just wanted to do a song that I wrote not long ago. It's called Fresh Harvest, and it kind of goes along with what we're talking about today. And before I do that, and there's some video that will be playing behind me during the song, during the message as well, so you'll be able to see some realities of what's going on and also what the Hope Movement is. It's not an organization or one-man show. It's us united as one. It's you. And so you'll be able to see what we're doing and also the realities, because you can't change something if you don't know what's going on. So before the song begins, I just wanted to read something. It's a poem. It's called Field of Souls that was written not long ago. And it goes like this. We work in the field of souls, together you and I. Some fields are blooming now, other fields are dry. We're not the same, but differences aside, we will work the field of souls, together you and I. One is off to foreign soil to work a distant land. Other anchors close to home to hold a neighbor's hand. Who has served the Father most and who has labored best, the life devoted to God, their devotion will be blessed. One shouts the gospel in the streets for everyone to hear. He's bold to everyone who meets, and the word is loud and clear. Another cries alone and prays in silence on her knees before the throne day after day where human eyes don't see. One bears the burden to reach the broken, often their life in danger. Another gives to ease the burden so that missionary can minister and the oppressed can be delivered. We work the field of souls together, you and I. Some fields are blooming now, other fields are dry. We're not the same, but differences aside, we will work the field of souls together, you and I. And I'd like to do a song that I wrote and produced not long ago. It's called Fresh Harvest. If you could dim down the lights a little bit more, just so I want you to take a journey with me. Looking into the field of life, I see such pain, a world of strife. Hearts and souls searching for a love, longing for the rain from above. The valleys long, the mountains high. Our hearts are broken, emotions dry. Searching for a solution to their heart's pollution. There's a fresh harvest. A new day has arrived. A fresh harvest. The storm's about to subside. a product of destiny, a flower in disguise. Wipe the tears from their eyes. The storm is almost over. The sun is about to rise. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. A new day has arrived. A fresh, fresh harvest. The storm's about to subside. The trail of our soul has come to an end. And all that was broken is about to mend. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. Broken pieces, shattered dreams will no longer be. Creator of life is in love with you and me. I've never knew a love like this before. Who has so many keys to so many doors? I tremble when the hands of time cease. As I begin to decrease, His glory seems to increase. His shadows all around. We're on holy ground. And if you look around, a revolution's going down. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. A new day has arrived. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. The storms are about to subside. The drought of our souls has come to an end, and all that was broken is about to mend. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. A new day has arrived. A fresh, fresh harvest. The storms are about to subside. The drought of our soul has come to an end. And all that was broken is about to mend. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. There's a fresh, fresh harvest. As we begin to take this journey, I want us to really focus not on me and who I am in our history here. I want us to look through the eyes of Jesus. Today is about the voice of the voiceless. And I want you to focus on the images that you're going to be seeing today. And focus your mind on the words, because they're not my words, they're the words from Jesus and Him speaking for the voice of the voiceless, those who are broken all around the world. This is a journey. As you're going to see in this video, as Jude was mentioning, there's going to be, you'll see a video of the center the Edgemere presentation video. And you'll see the building that was built. Actually, I helped put the first bricks. Betty Wright, she took us down there often with Martha Noguera, who's part of our board of directors, and Rick Bidenbeck, and all of them are still involved and supporting the Hope Movement, who many of you may know. And it's been a long journey, and I'll share with you what happens. You'll see it's not going. What I'm saying is not going to go exactly along with the video, but you'll see, as you can see, this is the team that many people may know from back in the day. This is '94. You see, I grew up in church all my life. Majority of the time right here. Many, many years. Church every Sunday, youth group every Wednesday. Living, serving for God was and is my destiny. But see, I've seen the good things in the church and I've seen the bad things. I've seen the beauty it can do, the presence of God can move in the lives that can be changed. I've also seen how the church can destroy lives. See, the church is not the building. It's not the name Edgemere Church of God. It's not the pastor. It's us. And we oftentimes hurt the very ones that are within our own walls by rumors and criticisms. And how in the world are you going to fix the streets if you can't even fix your own house? See, I saw this growing up. And I saw the beauty as well, that I forever was changed. And see, as a young boy, I was sensitive to the needs around me and felt things that most people didn't realize that I even felt, that I could put myself in people's shoes. And that inspired a lot of songs, over 300 in the last several years now, and used them to express my inner pains and hurts, and also to express the pains of other people that I see. 15 years old, if you remember, we went to Mexico, Pastor Hancock, Sister Hancock, Susie, many other people, and that was one of the beginning steps. Then went to Guatemala, the place where I found my purpose. So you can't go to a place and see children walking on the streets. And see, they're not walking on the streets because they're playing, they're living there. You can't go and see a child that grabs your hand and takes you and says, I want to show you my house. And there's a piece of tin laying over a pole, and they pick it up, and you look inside and the whole family's living inside there. You can't be the same again, especially as a 15, 16-year-old boy. You can't go and be the same again when you travel into a jungle area and a child has a hole the size of $50, and his leg you can see to his bone because he don't know what healthcare is. Doesn't even know what a toothbrush is. You can't be the same either when you see two orphanages by different denominations or Christian organizations, and they cut the electrical lines of the other orphanage because of competition. And that is where the name Hope Movement birthed. To shake the comfort zone of the church and unite us together, because we can't do it alone. See, there's so much need in the world today that God doesn't need an arm reaching out to them. He needs an army. So, as I was walking down the streets of Guatemala, I saw women being beat, children looking for food to eat. And I was never the same again. As in the beginning picture, you saw the first center that was existent at the time. And as I was traveling, I'm walking the streets, and nobody even knew this because they thought I was just, some kid. And little did they know I was walking outside by myself in Guatemala, and there was a soccer court in the back. And I remember thinking, for whatever reason, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old thinking this, that one day I'm going to do something here. And in 2007, we did a street crusade 5 days in a row, packed out the place. And that was the beginning of the Hope Movement in this community. The third largest city in Guatemala, and the only outreach program in the whole city. And has the highest malnutrition rate in the whole country, which is the fourth highest malnutrition rate in the whole world. And we're the only program. So, as time went on, I came back to the United States, and I sat with my parents, and I said, I'll never be the same again. And as my dad once said, he never was. I sat with my great-grandmother, who's from Nicaragua, and showed her the pictures, and she saw herself in those pictures, and she began to weep, and I'll never forget her words, don't forget them. They need you. For over 10 years, little did anybody know that that my friends, probably even my family members, that I was writing letters to Guatemala. Betty Wright passed away, and the mission trip ceased, and her dying wish was that the money would go to the program. And all these years, none of my letters arrived, and then little by little, every night I tossed and turned, I saw the images of these children in my mind. I felt the calling in my heart. I would play a specific song in Spanish that would transcend me to Guatemala, that it would take me there. Have your ups and downs, and you make your mistakes, and you have school and all those things, but I never let go of that. It just never, when you're called, you can't do it. It's in your DNA. And so, 2003, I started to figure out I need to do something with missions. And so I founded the Hope Movement. I didn't have the money to become a nonprofit foundation. And a few people from Edgemere, Joanne Kidwell, who passed away, and as well as the Biden backs and a few other people who they contributed, and it didn't even exist. They just believed in that to get the tax exemption. And so we got the tax exemption, and Ron and Anita Harding, which some of you may know, we're working with the Hope Movement, and we're going to send them as missionaries, and they went down there, and I said, this is my last letter to Guatemala. It's been over 10 years, it's not going to happen. I sent the letter from Costa Rica, and 2 weeks later I get an email from Pastor Deddy Flores. It was the same man who welcomed Betty Wright and all of us there. He got us to the hotels and transportation, the food, everything. He provided everything for us during that time. And to this day, he is the director of our program. He's also like my second father. And he answered in an email and he said, when God places someone in your heart, you can never let go of them. We've been waiting for you all this time. The building shut down. We felt forgotten. We had no money. All the children are back on the streets again. The building on the outside where it said feeding center now isn't faded away. The building falling apart. But it's yours, and we're here to serve you. So years and years after this, we passed and we were trying to raise funds and struggles. And we're trying to figure out why is all these opportunities happening. In the meantime, we had Martha Noguera, who many people know from Edgemere, who's now a pastor in Annapolis, and she gave me a building in Iquitos, Peru, in the Amazons. And we started a program there. And then we had these opportunities in Haiti, in Kenya, and Pakistan, and different places, and they started coming out of the woodwork. I said, why do we have all these opportunities and we have no money to do anything? We have no opportunities to do it. We can't do it without the resources. And it came to me, I thought maybe it was me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I'm not living right. You question yourself and try to figure out what are you doing wrong when you spend your hard-earned money, practically lost everything in selling things, and you can't work normal jobs because you're consumed with mission work and ministry, and practically lost everything. And during this time also, family split up and fell apart. Only child, and so you're left alone and you don't know where to go, and nobody's around and nobody's supporting you. Nobody sees your hurts and pains and the times that you cry yourself to sleep. And you ask God, why is all this stuff happening when all I try to do is live for you and do the right thing? And God said, wait and see. I'm preparing you for a purpose, for your destiny. See, he allowed me to taste poverty. He allowed me to taste the broken family. He allowed me to taste and see the lives of people that close to me that got mixed up in drugs and all these things as a way to show me, to understand what the hurt feel. To put yourself in their shoes, to see through his eyes. He was molding. And so, as time went on, we struggled, and I questioned again, why is this happening? Why are no opportunities happening? Why is nobody helping? Why does nobody care? Why do we have all these opportunities? And he said, see, you answered the call. You're doing all you can. You tell the people what they're doing and what the needs are and what's happening in the world. The thing is, they're not answering their call. And so this is where the message begins. See, we don't see through the eyes of Jesus. I want you to understand that many congregations expect a message that addresses the hurts and pains of us. This is about Jesus. See, if you journey with me today into a reality unknown to most people, a place outside of ourselves, outside of our comfort zone, in Matthew 9:35-37 it states, "And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in the synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." Thousands of years after these words were uttered, it's more true today than ever before. See, I want you to focus your thoughts on the people that you're going to see up here, because these are the people that Jesus sees every day. This is the people that missionaries see every day. I can tell you stories after stories. Why did divorce happen in my family? Well, one day sitting in that same soccer court where we did the street crusade, where I said at 15 or 16 years old that one day I'm going to do something here. The worship music was going on, God was moving, and I was in the bleachers by myself. And a group of kids started coming around me, and they started asking me questions, and one of the boys, Emilio, said, "I feel different. I feel something different. I feel it where? In my heart." And we began to sit. And little you know that his family was broken apart. His mother's a prostitute. His father is a pimp. He sells children on the black market. And so Emilio was looking for answers of somebody who could connect with him. So I started sharing my story about my family situation and things, struggles that I went through with finances, all sorts of things, using my pain to connect to his pain. By the time we finished the conversation, there was 20 kids surrounded around me, and every single one of them accepted Jesus. See, he uses the stories for a lesson, to teach other people. Have you used your story to teach other people? See, in Isaiah 58:6, "Is it not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and unite the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke?" Luke 4:18, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, and to set at liberty those who are oppressed." I want you to take a journey now, because focus on the video or close your eyes, and I want you to think about the lives of people that are hurting, people that you've never met, and people that Fox News and CNN and all these media outlets are not going to tell you about. See, in the world, there's 1.2 billion people that live on less than $1 a day. Now I want you to listen to their voice. I hear in some places in the world, people purchase coffee for $5 a cup. I dig through trash in the dump to find a crumb. I hear they have a value menu of $1 for a good meal, while my entire family struggles to survive on $1 a day, no food to eat, no health care, no one who cares. I hear that people have 4 walls, running water and air conditioning, while my living condition is worse than the homeless in your blessed nation. My hands blistered, body tired and worn, working 7 days a week for a piece of bread to eat. No government programs, no church outreach, just me and my family starving for hope. I feel I can't cope. I hear that churches have, in other places, complained that the air conditioning is too cold and the sermon too long, or they have a certain worship song that they don't like. Well, it's illegal for me to love the name Jesus. And I would die for that love. I would die just to have a place where I can fellowship with those who found grace. Why don't you cry for me? Or maybe you do. Why don't you cry for me and do all you can do to rescue me? See, I'm a street child, 100 million like me. Fatherless, motherless, drowning in the abyss of churches lacking knowledge. 100 million just like me, living and working on the street, nothing to eat, no shoes on my feet, mistreated by those around me, every night being beat. My bed is cardboard, my pillow is my hands. Glue inhalant is my elixir to take away the hunger pain. Abandoned and afraid, innocence lost at eternal cost. I long for someone to rescue me. Lift me from this pit, wrap me in their arms, and keep me safe from harm, and reveal to me my purpose. For I know this is not it. There has to be something in store for me, and so I ask you, why don't you cry for me? Why don't you hear my cry? Or maybe you do, and so I ask, why don't you do all you can do to rescue me? Now I want you to imagine yourself in a dark room right now. This is the reality that I see every day in Guatemala and many other places where we rescue children from the streets and from human trafficking. I want you to imagine yourself by my side in a dark room. The air is humid, riddled with the stench of mildew and sweat. Our wrists are sore from shackles, body chafing from brutal friction, from forced penetration. Voices echo from down the hall, going, gone, sold to the highest bidder. The price of my virtue. Discounted price for no protection required. Tears run down your face, for we know what is about to take place. Hold your head down in disgrace, praying for liberating grace. See, we're only 14 years old, serving 14 dead men daily. Some of us in a situation because they've been tricked by our family to believe that they're going to give us a better life. Others sold by our families. Others abandoned in the streets. Innocence lost for a silent cost. For people know we exist, but they don't feel our pain, and they're paralyzed by their fear and selfishness and trading passion for passiveness while we're being traded like cattle. 30 million just like me. In fact, in Baltimore, in Eastern Avenue, right near Broadway, many years ago, because I was affiliated with a Rescue Restore, we found out that there was a brothel being behind a Mexican restaurant there. So we reported it, and they raided the facility, and inside was a dungeon of 20 young girls being sold. Right here in Baltimore. Did you know this? Did the media tell you this? And if you did see this, what would you do? Would you cry for them? Would you stand up for them? Would you embrace them? See, Jesus sees this every single day of his life. He sees all these situations happening. 30 million slaves. He sees 100 million street children. He sees 1.2 million people living on $1 a day. He sees, now, do the math. They say there's 7 billion people in the world today. And there's an estimated 2.5 billion Christians. Now, they bundle that into all denominations, that people that don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God as well. So now you can reduce that number. The remainder don't know Jesus or serve other religions. And in the unevangelized world, there's only 20,000 workers. Now, how is 20,000 workers going to reach multiple billions of people? That's up to us to go, to send, to give, so that they can be reached. Camp meetings and come, Lord Jesus, come, right? But if you've ever seen Schindler's List, there's a scene at the end of the movie where he says he's a German man who's very wealthy, and he's now saved thousands of Jews from the Holocaust and with his own money. And now he's sitting in a room where there's his fancy car, and he's got a ring on his finger. And in that scene, he says, this ring could have saved how many more lives? This car, what's the point of this car? How many people could I have saved? When's the last time we thought like that? We have our mega churches, and we have all these fancy things. And what Rick Warren wrote, "Sadly, a quick review of many popular Christian books reveals that believers have abandoned living God's purposes and settled for personal fulfillment and emotional stability. See, that's narcissism, not discipleship. Jesus did not die on a cross so that we could be comfortable, well-adjusted lives. His purposes are far deeper. He wants us to make us like himself before he takes us to heaven. This is the greatest privilege, our immediate responsibility, and our ultimate destiny." See, we have a DNA. When you become a Christian, DNA. And see, the definition of DNA is the molecule that encodes the genetic instructions used in the development and functioning of all known living organisms and many viruses. We also have a calling, every single one of us. And the definition of calling is a strong inner impulse toward a particular course of action, especially when accompanied by conviction of divine influence. Now see, the DNA of calling is a strong inner impulse that encodes the genetic instructions used in development and functioning that guides us to a particular course of actions, especially when accompanied by conviction of divine purpose. Now the synonyms of purpose or calling are aim, plan, intention, meaning, resolve, intent. But the antonym, which many of us deal with, are vague, meaningless, aimless, and unplanned. Which one are we? See, we're born with these genetic codes in our DNA. As Christians, we're born with this calling, this urge that we have to carry on the mission of Jesus. Jesus left a mission for us. So oftentimes we create our own missions and our own agendas, and we try to customize our DNA to fit our particular needs, to customize it so that it fits our comfort zone. So we can come to church and we can reap the benefits of grace without sacrifice. But just like you can change your eye color through contact lenses, change your hair color, and even tan, so you can change your color of your skin or whatever. But that's not going to change what's inside of you, what's in your DNA. All you're doing is hiding it and covering it up. See, you didn't create yourself, so there's no way you can tell yourself what you were created for. See, I want you to see that the dangers of DNA modification of your purpose, in the medical terms, it says this, that it will scramble, delete, relocate the genetic code near the insertion site. It also is most commonly caused is silencing of genes, which passes on from generation to generation. See, that's what we try to do when we get locked away in our comfort zone and we try to change our purpose of the church. See, Jesus left a mission for us. So technically the church doesn't have a mission, the mission has a church. So when we look at this and what we're saying here is that many times we think that we can delay our purpose, our calling. We say, well, we can wait for another day. We can give another day. We can go out another day. But the reality is that delayed obedience, in fact, is disobedience. A.W. Tozer said, the reason why many still troubled, still seeking, still making little forward progress is because they haven't come to the end of themselves. We're still trying to give orders and interfering with God's work within us. See, it goes on and on in the Bible about what we're called to do. In Isaiah 1:17, listen to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Now there's also in Ezekiel 22, it says, I've searched for a man among them who would bring up the wall and stand in the gap before me for the land, so that I would not destroy it. But I have found none. That's what Jesus is seeing today. But he's allowed at least found one. And today, we've united into Hope Movement. And so this one, just like a drop, it creates a ripple, which creates a movement. Jude united, Susie united, Edgemere united, other churches united, and now we're a movement for people. No longer is he going to say, I have found none. From this day forward, he will not say, I have not found none. It said, Jeremiah 22, did not your father do justice and righteousness? Then Then it was well with him. He pled the cause of the afflicted and needy. Then it was well. Is not that what it means to know me, declares the Lord. See, oftentimes we go and we have this different way of evangelizing. And we go, and I want you to imagine that this is an ocean. You're in the ocean. And each one of you are dealing with a certain situation. Depression, suicidal thoughts. You're in poverty. You're in prostitution. You're in a crack house. Whatever the situation may be. And oftentimes the church stands at the shoreline. And we say, here is Jesus. Come and get him. Come and get him. And the person's drowning in the abyss of their pains and their hurts and their trials that they're going through. So they're not coming. So we go, we step into the water, and the water's too cold. Why don't you come to me? Come to me. And then we go and say, let's try it again. And we go, no, it's a little bumpy, a little wavy, rip tides, and no, it's okay. Come to me. That's what we often do. Is we go from a distance and we see the people they're drowning in their abyss, and we show them the way, but we're not willing to go get them and pull them from where they're at. You've been trafficked and you've been abused brutally, and you tell them about Jesus, which is wonderful. But we all know that we need stability. We need a family. We need people to nurture us and lift us up, because it's easy to fall back into your old ways. So we can't lead them back where they're at and say, here's Jesus, now you're saved, have a good day. We have to pull them out of there. We have to build the orphanage. We have to build the rehab centers. We have to build these facilities that are going to bring them out of their depression and out of their situations. See, there's a saying in Africa, and it's a very powerful tool that I often thought about, and it's Sabi Bonai, which is Zulu for greeting in African, which means I see you. And the actual meaning means I recognize you as a person. See, that's how they say hello. How many times have we gone and we've said, hey, how you doing, what's up, and hey, how you doing? And we really didn't see the person. We didn't see the tears in their eyes. We didn't see their pains. We didn't see their heartache. And that night, maybe if you just would have smiled at them, they might have not committed suicide. See, I remember I was in Miami at a church. It's a very big church, mega church. And I was just dealing with, I was beat down. I was just, you go through every day and you do this work, and you can't, sometimes you have your hard time. You have those human moments. And I remember that in the big church, I got lost in the crowd, and nobody paid attention to me or didn't see what I was going through. And I remember the pastor said, to embrace the guy next to you. That's the only reason why they would have even. And I remember that when he did that, I broke down, because that's what I needed at the moment. How many times have we lost those opportunities because we didn't see through the eyes of Jesus? See, Helen Keller once was asked a ridiculous question. And they said, what's the worst thing than being blind? And her response could have been a variety of things. Could have been very sarcastic. She could have said, not much worse than being blind, duh. But she didn't. She said, and I quote, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but not having vision. Isaiah 5:21 says, woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and shrewd in their own sight. Psalms 34:15 says, the eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and his ears towards their cry. Do you see what Jesus sees? When was the last time you cried for someone? When was the last time that you saw the news and you just flipped the channel? I want you to understand that in the third world, our worst ghettos in Baltimore and wherever look like Beverly Hills. They have no sanitation, no water, no electricity. See, I'll tell you a reality of what I see. Imagine yourself that one day I'm sitting on a curb, just like a curb like this, and a little girl asked me to sit next to her. Her name is Sandra. there's a little property that's abandoned next to our center. And they came and just kind of squatted there, built a metal shack. It's the mother, Sandra, who's about 12 years old, Rosita, who at the time was 2 or 3 years old, her other sister was about 5 years old at the time, the stepfather, and also the grandmother who can't speak because a man punched her in her throat. And they all live in this one place. The man, he's a drug addict, and he does his business with the woman in front of the children and leaves and does his drugs. And he also, there's no bathroom or running water or electricity, and so he uses the bathroom on the ground, and his feces on the ground, and they have no shoes. So Rosita would walk through the feces and contracted tuberculosis. She was severely malnourished that when she came to us, her hair was orange. She didn't speak, she didn't trust men, she wouldn't even look at me. And since that time, we were able to get rid of that man. And Rosita and her little sister are tuberculosis free now. There. Actually, you probably saw her in the beginning video where it said Rosita before, Rosita now. And that is the realities that we deal with every single day. We have babies that come to us 5 years old with an STD, a sexually transmitted disease, because they were sold to prisoners in Escuintla, Guatemala. These are the realities that we deal with. This is the stuff that the news doesn't tell you about. This is the things that people don't even know that we're dealing with. And so, as you can imagine, your prayers are needed. Your support is needed. And you are needed to go, to do, to give. And also right here in your own community, you have a hope movement right here. I mean, you have 17,000 women and children trafficked in the United States every year. You have a huge immigration population that don't know Jesus, or they come from backgrounds where religions are twisted, and even Catholicism or Christian are twisted with idolatry and Santeria, which is voodooism and the occult. It happens right here. You have many ministries right here. What are you doing? They can't do it on their own. See, I want you to understand that there's something that impacted me one time, is that there was a Jewish legend that once says that when the Israelites were passing through the Red Sea, and the sea had opened up, and they were passing through, as you can imagine, they're running. You don't want to make sure that water doesn't crash on you. And the Egyptians are behind you. And they arrive to the other side, and all of a sudden, the raging seas crash down upon the Egyptians. As human beings, the Israelites, of course, were very excited. They're liberated. They're not. The angels began to rejoice with the Israelites. And God looks over at the angels and he says, "What are you doing? Why are you celebrating?" See, I expect that from them because they're human beings. But I expect more from you. Are they not my creation? Do you not see through my eyes and feel my pain that I had to destroy my love in order to liberate my people? Jesus is saying right now to you, what are you doing? Do you see through my eyes? See, you might think that there's so much need in the world today that your little that it does very little. Just to give you an idea, is I get monthly reports from Pastor Nettie in Guatemala, who who sends me these Excel reports of all of our finances, and then I put it into our accounting system. And one day I'm looking at the category under the food section, and it caught me off guard, and I said, what is this? And then it said 40 pounds of chicken. And in the price, it said in Casales, the price, the conversion rate was $10. And so I talk to Pastor Nettie every day, and we have our discussions, and I said, Pastor Nettie, I just want to make sure that you didn't make a mistake and type £40 for $10. And his response was, is that too much? The price of what you get at McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever provided 40 pounds of meat for children. So, as Mother Teresa once said, we ourselves feel that we are doing just a drop in the ocean, but that ocean would be less because of that missing drop. Jesus said when he was preaching on the mountainside, a famous story of the 5,000, and they say 5,000 men, so you can imagine there's women and children as well along with that. You can just imagine, I can just imagine him being really cool and nonchalant. He said, what do you have in your hand? And that's what God is asking us. What do you have in your hand? It's not just about giving financially. It's also, what do you have in your hand? What kind of talents do you have? What kind of abilities do you have that you're not utilizing? I don't want you to forget this message that, we talked a lot, back in the day when I was thinking about the good times that I had at Edgemere and camp meetings with Church of God and all those good things. And I started thinking about, when we would say revival a lot. And I started thinking, we have a revival, and then the next week, all fired up, right? And then Joe Hogan, everybody will remember those times. And we had great intentions. And then, a week passes, and another week passes, and then all of a sudden, you start moving closer to the back, and before they're in the front, and they're hooting and hollering and putting on a good show for everybody, right? And then it goes back to the social club. And I started thinking, like, we have a revival, we have another revival, and we go good, and we go back to revival. Is that how many times you need to be revived until finally God's going to say, just leave them dead, right? How many times are you going to revive a dead thing? We got to keep it going. See, I remember in the youth group, and sharing this, that I thought about this recently, as I knew I was coming here, and it was something that when I think back, we had oftentimes great moves of God and agape. Especially with young people, they were coming not for the right reasons. They were coming for the good time. Everybody went to school together, and it was, it was a social club. And then you think about how many percentage of them are no longer in church, or those that I've seen. That I remember when we used to do the talent shows and we'd do the Bible, trivias, and we had to quote the Bible and all these kind of things. And where are they at now? And you see on their Facebook page or whatever, and it says agnostic or atheist. And I remember a time when I saw someone, and he was a well-liked guy here, and he was helped with the music and the youth group, and I hadn't seen him for many years, and this was now probably about 10 years ago, or a little bit, maybe a little less than 10 years ago. And so I walked into TGI Fridays, and as you know, at TGI Fridays, when you walk in, it has the hostess stand, and right behind the hostess stand, it has the bar there. And he saw me, and he said, Jonathan, come here. So I walked over, and hey, how you doing? And it was nice to see him. I hadn't seen him for a long time. And he had shots of alcohol. Now this is a guy that loved and served God for the longest time. Something happened. Look, this is not about a specific church or whatever. This is about the people. That's the church. People did something to him. And maybe it was his own fault. And he just made it an excuse, whatever it might have been. The point is that nobody knew where he was. And he had these lines of shots, and then he said, "It's good to see you, Jonathan." And he started talking about, how he was bitter about things that happened at the church. And he picked up the shot and he said, "This is for the church of God." And he drank it and he fell off the bar stool. See, when the young people in the church, when they don't stand for anything, they'll fall for anything. And we have to transform it from a social club to something more. You look at the Muslim religion, and these are people, young people, that are willing to strap a bomb to their body for their faith. And yet we're not willing to go out and just talk to people in our own schools. Most people don't even know we're Christians because we're so ashamed of it. And I don't know if many people have seen God's Not Dead, the movie, but there's a scene in there where this woman has Alzheimer's and dementia. And her son is sitting there, and he's a wealthy businessman in a suit, and he has everything, women and everything. And she's staring dead into space, just in a daze. And he's saying, "Look at you. I have everything, and I'm a terrible human being. And you have nothing. Look at you. I can't even remember who I am." And in a moment of clarity, still in this daze, but moment of clarity, she says, sometimes the enemy gives you all these things to lock you into a prison where you think that you're comfortable and great, but you're locked in a prison. And that's what the church has often become. So the Hope movement is about shaking that comfort zone. So there's a lot of opportunities, not just in Guatemala. There's opportunities in Pakistan where there's only 1% of the population are Christians, to the point that the guy that we work with, that he has to dress up like a woman in order to sneak out of the facility to get into a van to go out of the city because they're looking for him, because he's a preacher. This is the realities that go on every day. But these are the opportunities we need to go where nobody else is going. They're the ones they understand. They long for it. We want a hope movement because they understand what the concept is. It's that it's about unifying the ministries together and doing the work. If you go into Guatemala, when you go next year, you'll see that in the ghetto slum, there's multiple churches all around. And there's nobody in the street. Nobody ministering. You'll just see nothing but drugs and prostitution, and the kids will go and say, "She's a prostitute." They're 5 years old and they know what a prostitute is. And all the churches, they come on Sunday, they do their thing, and then you don't ever see them in the streets. And so this is something that we're trying to change. We're trying to shake the comfort zone of the churches there and say that you don't wait for some foreigners to come down to do the work. It's your people, it's your job to do it. Now we're going to give you the tools, we're going to inspire you, we're going to shake the comfort zone, we're going to get you out of there. Now look, you go and you say, this church has a drum set, this guy has a guitar player, this guy has a nurse, that church has a doctor. So now we unite together, we have a medical mission, we have a street crusade. So this is the concept that we're putting out there. We're also trying to do something a little bit different because we want them to look at it as a unified movement and not as a competition type thing for donations. And so we're trying to be creative and to start little businesses where we're able to be self-sustained and not depend on just donations. Of course, donations will help us expand and do more. But then to lift up churches, rather than building a building in another facility, another city, we're able to go and to not waste money on buildings and utilize the buildings that already exist. A church, they have tables, they have chairs, and now we have a feeding center. So this is something that we're doing now in other parts of Guatemala and other places, and even in the Philippines that we've done it recently. So these are the new concepts that we're trying to come out with to be creative. There's also, the government now sees what we're doing, and there's a plant called moringa, which is also known in some places as the miracle tree. And you can use every bit of the tree for medical reasons and everything. But 1 ounce of it is worth $35, so it has a lot of value to it as well. You can actually sell it, make teas out of it, and use that goes to the program. 1 ounce of this leaf actually provides all the nutrients and properties that a child needs to be restored from malnutrition to nutrition. 1 ounce of it. So now what we're trying to do is, in the hope of getting land to build a city of hope, which will be an orphanage and a home for abandoned elderly. We'll also have a farm that will have this plant, and it will be the manna packs, which will have dried rice and dried and vegetables, and then also the moringa. They add water to it, cook it up, and now that you can feed 144,000 people with just a small amount of trees. So these are things that we're trying to do and be creative with. But see, we can't do this alone. And so in Ezra 10:4, it says, "Get up, for it's your duty now. We are behind you, so be strong and take action." So I ask you to please keep us in prayer and stand beside us and take action in whatever way you can. And I want us to just close in just a video that is shaking the comfort zone. If it can be turned up, I want you just to see some of this video and just remember to see through the eyes of Jesus.
You know, it's not hard to see that there's this great imbalance and that things aren't right. You know, I know that, but for me, I suppose it really hits home if I stop and think about this moment. Because it's happening right now. In the same moment, you have, a generation who are sitting around entertaining themselves, watching reality television, which, to be honest, is anything but real, while you have a child who is being prostituted behind closed doors and robbed of their innocence. It's not fair that we can go about consuming every single material option that comes our way while, the widow and orphan are stripped of life's basic dignities because they're victims of a conflict that simply isn't theirs. It's not fair that there's a generation who are choking on their obesity while at the same time there's 30,000 children who will die today for lack of food. It's not fair that we have no problem going about spending $3 or $4 on what is basically glorified tap water in a bottle with a fancy label, while you have entire communities who suffer at the hands of disease because the only water that they have access to is foul and polluted. It's not fair that we, can sing and dance and jump around in our freedom and in our liberty while at the same time the slave remains captive, out of sight and out of mind. It's not fair that we can sit and watch the evening news from the comfort of our living rooms and pity those who lived where the storm hit or where the ground shook or where the water rose and simply feel sorry for them and then change the channel and get on with supper. Is it fair to walk past the homeless man and give him nothing in the assumption that he'll spend it on booze or cigarettes, or to suggest they should go out and get a job? I mean, who are we to judge the alcoholic or the prostitute or the addict or the criminal as if we were any better? Who are we to forget the downtrodden or the oppressed or the marginalised while we go about chasing the dream? We see this imbalance and we go, man, that's not right, that's not fair. But all too often that's all we do. Because for us to do any more is actually going to cost us something. And if that's where it ends, perhaps then it's fair to say that when we ignore the prostituted child, that we actually lend our hand to their abuse. That when we ignore the widow and the orphan in their distress, that we actually add to their pain. When we ignore the slave who remains captive, that it's us who's entrapping them. That when we forget the refugee, that it's us who's displacing them. That when we choose not to help the poor and the needy, that we actually rob them. Perhaps the only fair thing to say is that when we forsake the lives of others, we actually forsake our own.
Thank you very much.
Church, we have an opportunity to demonstrate why God created the church. It is the only entity that exists on this earth that came from the side of the Savior. Never before did an organization called the church, or the entity that we are known as, more than just brick and mortar and roofing and so forth, but a body of people come together. They never had the opportunity in the Old Testament to do what you are about to do and what you can do. There is a centralization that is taking place, and the focus has come back onto the church. It is the greatest place on earth. It is something that Jesus laid down his life for to give birth to us. We are his beautiful bride. And so we have an opportunity to demonstrate just how powerful the church is and what it needs to be done. And so Jesus always had compassion. And as a spirit of compassion, he would reach down and he would pull people out and never left them where they were. You can't go on a mission trip, but you can do something. We all can do something to make a difference. So in the pew in front of you, there are little pamphlets that we have for your convenience. It's the Edgemere Church of God You Belong, and it's called the Guatemala Pledge Card. If you would just simply take one of those cards, and there is an amount on the back that you can pencil in. We have one for $10 per month, $25 per month, $50 per month, $100 per month. You can just do a one-time donation, and that's wonderful. Or there is other. Maybe you can just do $2 a month or something. But we're asking you to do something. And I know that you're wanting to do that. And so our goal is $10,000. That's what we want to have available for Jonathan to send down to Guatemala to be able to ensure that there are children that are being fed every day. For just $10, isn't it amazing that 40 pounds of protein meat can be purchased? So everything you do, whether it is a quarter, whether it is $1,000, whatever you can do, is going to benefit. And we're just asking you to do something. This morning, we are taking up a offering for Jonathan. He does not get a bit of salary from this. 99 cents of every dollar goes towards Guatemala. 1 penny goes towards administration fees in regards to the workers that are there, helping to make the food and to hand it out, and just to kind of keep the lights going and so forth and that. Everything else is going to feed these children, help rescue prostitutes, help the elderly there, and to keep this building, which we want to make sure can come up to speed. And I know we have our thumbprint on this building now, but it's time for us to get our entire hands wrapped around this. Amen? Come on, church. I know that you want to do what you're wanting to do, and I'm confident that you will be able to do something. And again, not without a lot of, I don't want to use manipulation in any way, shape, or form, but I'm asking you to help. So, on top of your offering that you will give this morning, you will just simply take that card. You don't have to do a single thing with it today. If you just want to pledge, check it off, tear off that section, place it in the offering so that we know just exactly what we can be expecting. We can give that for to Jonathan, and he can start seeing this resource flowing into him. And then you keep that portion for yourself, putting the amount on the bottom there as a monthly reminder of what you need to do. Make all checks payable to the Edgemere Church of God, and then we in turn will send the money to Jonathan. We'll give him a check, and we'll make sure that he gets everything. Nothing is going to stay here. We don't take anything out. We are sending that strictly to him so that that can be used again for these resources in Guatemala. So I thank you for the efforts that you are going to make. And just before, as we are taking up this offering, we're going to put some numbers on there and up on the screen, and I'm going to talk about that in regards to our vision for our mission trip. So Father, we thank you very much for the opportunity to give, to provide, and to be the hands and feet that you have called us to be. We thank you for this young man and the vision that he has, and that has now become our vision, the Edgemere Church of God. To create these feeding centers, to rescue these children, to rescue those that are being sold in slavery, to help them and bring back what life should be for them. Many who are in abject poverty, we're thanking you that there will be now a return to at least life, and then the abundant life that you have promised us. So there will be enough medical supplies to help them, so that there will not be lacking for anything. We thank you that this is the beginning of a miracle, Father, that you are wanting to do. We have projected a goal of $10,000. And I know that when you said in your word that if we would ask, that you would do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that we could ever ask or imagine. So I'm thanking you that you are even now exceeding what we have asked for. We thank you for this provision. We thank you that this cause will not be forgotten, but it is a commitment that we will give ourselves to as we travel to and fro in the years to come. We give you praise, we give you honor. We thank you for blessing this movement, blessing Jonathan, keeping him safe, and your favor upon him in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Let's give unto the Lord. So our projection for our mission trip to Guatemala in 2015, we're looking to go, which will be the dates of June 22nd through the 29th of 2015. That will be 7 days. The cost of the trip is approximately, and this is a hard number, $1,500. Now what that will include is your hotel, airfare, your meals, taxes, ground transportation, and mission activities are all included in that price. Passports are something that is beyond that price. That is something that you would have to secure on your own. To hold your spot, all is needed is $100, and that will hold your spot. It's non-refundable. And then you have 13 months to pay this trip off. At $116 per month, it's very, very achievable. Or at $28 a week for the next 52 weeks, you will have your trip paid off. Final payment we will be giving in is at May 29th of 2015. Or we'll have it open for you that you can make a payment every 3 months. And that would come every 3 months about $348. So you would give one in July, you could give one in October, one in January, and then in May. Again, it's very, very feasible, it's very reasonable, and if you start planning now, there won't be such an impact on your life in regards to that. So if you want to sign up, you just simply will have a sign-up sheet. You can just email us. That's a way that's easy to sign up. Let us know your intentions in regards to that. We'll also have here sign-up sheets available for you in regards to that. Or simply, with your intention there, your mission card donation, you can just simply put Mission Trip 2015, and that'll have your name on it. We'll know your intentions in regards to going there. We thank you so very, very much for this opportunity and for what you are going to be able to do. Again, this is our long-term projection and project that we want to do. This is just a start. You'll be hearing more and more of it. You'll see updates. Of course, if you have email, any way that we can get in touch with you, we'll be letting you know just exactly what's going on. We're going to have Jonathan back. Can we give him a nice hand? It's so good to have him with us. Updates too as things go on. So we thank you so very, very much for this opportunity. We thank you for being here this morning. Would you stand to your feet, please? Father, we know that there is nothing impossible nor too difficult for you to do. We thank you for your presence that has been with us this morning. We thank you that the blood of Jesus Christ sets us free. And that this precious blood was spilled for everybody. And so as we've heard a vision this morning that will go beyond the borders of this house, using the church, the most powerful place on earth, in which you lay down your life, we thank you for the impact that we will have. We thank you for the deliverance that will come. And for those that are in this building this morning that are needing deliverance or healing, that you are ministering to them right now in a great and powerful way. We thank you that there is, again, nothing too difficult for you to do. Open up, God. Open up the heavens now and pour out your blessings in such an incredible, fruitful way. We thank you that this truly is a time to be jubilant. It is a time to rejoice, but it is also a time to not always focus on ourselves, but to look to others in which we can help. And I thank you that that has been relayed this morning, that we will be able to do our part as you have called us for such a time as this. So we give you thanks, we give you honor, and we give you praise for it. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Come on, let's give the Lord a nice hand clap of appreciation. Be sure to greet Jonathan. We have our second service this night, today at 6 o'clock, and we hope that you will be a part of it. And bless you. You are dismissed in Jesus' name.